Welcome everyone to Educator's Guide to Mr. Owl. I'm so excited that you could join me for this presentation. It is now 8 o'clock, so we need to get rocking and rolling with things here because we've got a lot of exciting things to cover. What I want to do, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself in a few minutes, but I'm Laura Candler from Teaching Resources. A lot of you have probably been to my webinars, and that just reminds me, I actually had some poll questions for you about whether you've attended a webinar with me or not before, and I completely forgot to do that in the pre-webinar time. So maybe if you could just put something in the chat right now, if you've ever been to one of my webinars before, it's just kind of fun to see. Maybe we'll bring that poll up at the end or something. But anyways, what I want to do is I'm here to share with you not about my own resources, but about an awesome free technology tool called MrOwl that I learned about a few months ago. And I just thought it was so amazing. I wanted to share with you some ideas for how to use it and also get some of your input because I'm no longer teaching in the classroom. So sometimes, you know, I see where something could be useful, but I like to interact with teachers and find out, like, how would you use this tool? So I'm going to walk you through how you use MrOwl and just sort of step-by-step things to save you time. And then I'll be sharing some ideas that I have for using it with students and using it as, you know, just professionally as an educator. And I'll be asking for your input as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to, well, let me just do this real quick. I'm going to minimize my camera for a second, and you see that there are two other images. In the middle is Peggy, who is our moderator, Peggy George, moderator and kind of admin behind the scenes. She'll be answering questions if you have any questions that need to be answered. And then we have a mystery guest, which is actually two people from the MrOwl team, and I will be introducing them in just a minute, and you'll get to see them and hear from them. But before we do that, I'm going to do some screen sharing and just go over to the MrOwl website and just show you a couple of things, because when they start talking, I think you would be a little bit confused about some of the things that they're going to share unless you had actually seen it. So let me turn off my camera and see if I can switch over to screen sharing. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen at this point. And this is the MrOwl website. MrOwl is really a place where you can search for things, things that interest you. You can organize them into categories. You can save links. There's just so many things that you can do. But I just want to give you a little bit of a top level view. MrOwl has kind of two main parts. There's this community tree, which is made up of branches. And if you notice, the branches have topics. And so each main topic is called a branch. And when you click on a topic like animals, then you will see subtopics here. And underneath the subtopics, you'll see links to different resources. There may be photos over in this far column. And then if you click on some of the subtopics, they have even more subtopics, like digging down even deeper and more links and resources and so on. So that's the MrOwl community tree. And that is, I will explain a lot more to you about how that works and how that came to be and so on. But the other part of the site is like users, the community, the people who join MrOwl and add their own content. So you just click over in the upper right hand corner on your picture, and so this is my profile page on MrOwl, and you can see these are some of the branches that I have been curating. And when you click on the branches, you can look inside. This particular one of MrOwl Resources for Teachers doesn't have any subtopics. It just has other links. But the neat thing about these branches, you may be thinking, well, this kind of looks like Pinterest. Well, in a way it does, but with these branches, you can upload files to them. And also you can actually upload documents, PowerPoint, spreadsheets, all kinds of things to the branches. So it's not just, collecting links to other places on the web. And also there's some really awesome search features in here. So that's just kind of a little top level view. the webinar is going to have a whole lot of information about like how you set up your profile and how you start creating branches and add documents. And then at the very end, we'll be talking about educational uses, because I see educational uses for you as a teacher, like organizing resources, but I also have thought of things that students could do, say upper elementary students or middle or high school students. So let me switch back out of screen sharing here and come back to you, if I can do that, and just say hi again. So so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our special guests, and if Becky and Arvin would like to join us, and let me go ahead and maximize your screen. So and I know I'm down there in a little thumbnail down in the corner, and I'll close mine out in just a minute too, but I just wanted to introduce these two special people. Becky and Arvin are the founders of MrOwl. And they contacted me a couple of months ago, actually contacted me and wanted my input about the site. They were not asking me to do a webinar or write a blog article or anything. They were contacting me because they didn't build it just for educators, but they realized that MrOwl has a lot of potential for educators, and they wanted me to review it and give them some feedback, like how could we make this better for educators. So I'm going to let them kind of tell a little bit about themselves, and I'll go off camera, but they're going to just share a little bit, and then we'll get right into the presentation about how you use it. But I knew you would want to meet them. And also, if anybody's here from the Caring Classrooms giving page on in the Caring Classrooms Donors Choose community, hopefully you saw my message a little while ago that they have become sponsors of the Caring Classroom community, and we are so appreciative of that. It only took me like 5 minutes of telling them about what it was all about, and they were like pulling out their checkbook and sending me, not literally, but they, credit card, I guess, and sending a donation and everything. I really appreciate that support. So thanks so much for that. So I'm going to go off camera and actually turn off my microphone and camera for right now and let you guys have the floor.
Okay. Well, we are Becky and Arvind Raichur.
Hello.
We are married, and you can tell because we talk on top of each other. And we have a really interesting history with how we started MrOwl. We are serial entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I think what's interesting about it is this is our third company with respect to the internet. Our very first company, so by way of background, I'm actually an attorney, so please forgive me for that. But my family is big into education, and it's always been an important part of how I was brought up as far as that goes. And Becky is, by way of background, graduate work was in applied math and was a director level person at our National Labs Department of Defense with a specialty in high-speed databases and information transfer. And our very first company was about giving free legal information away online to people and consumers.
And as we were building that information, we realized that other people around the internet were building the same information. And at that time, it was really before Google, and we were like, why is it that it's so hard to find anything online? It's so hard because everything is so junky. And before Google, I don't know if you guys remember, the search was not very good. So we solved it by saying, hey, we're building a legal resources, and those people over there are building legal resources, and they're building what if we could all collaborate in some kind of system where we're adding links and being able to share them with one another?
And it doesn't have to just be links. That was the other thing that we envisioned. We thought you could share documents, or you could just do a little drawing and upload it. It could be anything that you wanted that was useful information that other people who were interested in the topic that you were also interested in could collaborate upon.
So anyway, we kept on going with our attorney and legal information thing. We had investors in that company. We kept working on that, and then we sold it. We had a big party, and we started our life's work, which is MrOwl.
Absolutely.
What you see behind you is some things with patents. We have 4 patents now and more pending. And we're really excited about the technology. Again, it's our life's work, and we're very passionate about it.
The reason we reached out to Laura and asked for her input, and we're kind of hoping that everybody gives us some input tonight, is education's the cornerstone of what we do, in everything that we think about. So we wanted it to make a really great quality resource for everyone. And we thought, wow, we better reach out to the educators and make sure that we're thinking about the needs they have to share resources and information online, and make sure that it's in a free platform so they can get the things that they need and the tools that are available to them. So that's how we got here tonight, guys.
That's how we're here.
Well, thanks so much for letting us know a little bit about that. And before you guys get to sneak off camera, I just wanted to tell everybody one thing that I love about this opportunity. I feel like this is an opportunity right now because MrOwl is really amazing, but it's still really new. And Becky and Arvin are so genuinely interested in making it better. I've honestly never really worked with anyone or any team or any company that was so responsive. Like, I will literally make a suggestion and like the next day they'll say, we did that for you. We have that ready for you. And, you know, I think that we have a unique opportunity. You know, there's so many times like you want to use something, you're thinking, you know, there's ways I could use Pinterest in the classroom, but like, could you even imagine contacting the people in Pinterest and asking them to change certain things to make it better for you as an educator? You know, but this is an opportunity we have. So when I show you some things, you may have some kind of concerns like, maybe it's not secure enough, or maybe kids might get into some content where they shouldn't be, or things like that. And we'll talk about that, but they are truly dedicated to making it even better, and they really are open to your suggestions. So later in the webinar, I'll tell you, I can even tell you right now, if you ever want to make a suggestion to them, when you're on MrOwl, just go down in the bottom right-hand corner of any page. There's a little link that says contact us, and then it brings up a form, and Becky and Arvin will see that, as well as whatever team members need to see it. But thanks for, you know, just being on the webinar with us and meeting everybody and kind of letting them know about your vision. I just think it's so awesome that you filed that patent on the MrOwl technology back in 1999, but then didn't really start working on it seriously until a few years ago. But to me, that shows that you're such visionaries. So I'm honored to, you know, work with you on this. So once again, I know we're kind of a few minutes into here and we've had some introductions and things, but the next part is kind of a walkthrough of the site. So Educator's Guide to MrOwl. This version of the webinar is called Intro for Early Adopters. So I'm assuming that you guys, since you're here, you are the kind of people that like to be first in on something and you like to make an impact. You know, you like to suggest changes and test out things, because when I do this webinar again, maybe 6 months from now, after some more features are added, then it won't be the Intro for Early Adopters anymore, but that's why it's sort of subtitled that way. So as I said earlier, I'm Laura Candler, a former classroom teacher. I taught 30 years, upper elementary, mostly 5th grade, a little bit in 4th, a little bit in 6th. I'm national board certified, have a master's degree in elementary education, and I received a Milken Educator Award a number of years ago. But I think the thing I'm most proud of is just being a classroom teacher for so many years. I will have to say that my first couple of years were pretty rough. Pretty proud of myself for sticking with it. Definitely was a challenge for me. I started out in a middle school with a pretty rough bunch of kids, but after the first couple of years, I just loved teaching, and it was hard for me to leave when I left, and there were some personal and family reasons with like parents ailing and that kind of thing that helped me make that decision. But now I love doing webinars and interacting with teachers, connecting with teachers, and that keeps me going. If you want to know where to find my teaching resources, I have a website, lauracandler.com. I also have a blog, corkboardconnections.com. And as we speak, those two are being integrated into one new mobile-friendly website that I hope to be able to unveil in a month or two. It's a time-consuming process. And I'm also on Facebook, Pinterest, and I have a TPT store, Laura Candler on tpt.com. So I wanted to let you know that I have set up a page of resources for teachers. Sometimes when I do webinars, I call this like the freebies page, but I didn't call it that. Everything is free here, but it's not like free printables and things. It's like things that I talk about in the webinar. They're like the Facebook group and information and MrOwl and my profile page. So they're just resources, but that is going to be there for you, and I'll show it to you at the end of the webinar as well. I wanted you to know I have a Facebook group called MrOwl Educators. And if you are interested in joining, it's on that page. And we are just exploring new things together, testing out the features, sharing tips, strategies, resources, offering feedback and suggestions to the MrOwl team. So anyways, that group has not been very active for the last few weeks because I've been out of town and so on, but we are really ready to get rolling, especially with the webinar. You're going to learn how to use these features, so when we're in the Facebook group, people will have that same foundation of knowledge of how things work. So our agenda is, I'm going to go through an introduction to MrOwl, like how does it work? How is it set up? Then getting started on in MrOwl is going to be tips for you, like how you're going to get started, like setting up your profile page, creating branches and that kind of thing. Connecting and collaborating, there's all kinds of social media tools and being able to follow people and so on. I'll tell you about that. Then MrOwl in the classroom is really specifically focused on how you could use it with students. And then at the end, we have like a little wrap up and a giveaway. So I want to put this question forth to you. How can educators use MrOwl both professionally and with their students? That's sort of a theme for the webinar. And as I'm sharing things, if you get ideas, I want you to just just type it. Like if you say, oh my gosh, I could use that for so-and-so, just type it and share it if you want to. I mean, if you find that to be distracting, don't worry about it. But I know a lot of people do like to do that. So I'm just kind of throwing that out as kind of a guiding question here. So this is going to be super quick because I think a lot of it's self-explanatory when you get on the site. But what is MrOwl? It's a free, fun new technology for exploring your interests and organizing your resources. There's a website version and there is a mobile app for the iPhone and Android. I want to tell you this up front to make you aware of it, but my personal recommendation is for you to learn it on the website before you use it on the app. That's me personally. I mean, you might find that the app is more user-friendly than the website, and if so, just go for it. But I just want you to know that for most of the things that I'm sharing, you will see screen captures from the website version. So what can you do on MrOwl? Well, you can search, save, and share online resources. You can upload your own photos and files, documents like Word documents or spreadsheets or whatever. You can organize your links and your files all together. That's what I love. In each branch, each folder, you can have website links and files all there in one folder. And you can also connect and collaborate with others. How MrOwl is organized, I kind of gave you, if you were here at the very beginning of the webinar, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning. I think of it as having two parts. You've got this MrOwl community tree that's branches, that's very well organized, very thorough, very detailed. And then you have MrOwl community members who are people like me and you who create their own branches. They may be more of like a mishmash of things of whatever we like. And so there's like social media components, and then there's this MrOwl community tree, which is like a massive like search engine. So let's talk about each part. In the MrOwl community tree, when you click on the link at the top of the website, you will see all of these branches. This is only, 12 of them, but there's like at least, there's at least, 20, twice that many or more. And when you click on each branch, it will open up to subtopics, and then you can click and there may be more subtopics. There may be level after level after level in here. But one thing that I think is really neat to know, and I did not really understand this until I had been working with MrOwl for quite a while and been playing with it, but all of the links in the community tree are actually checked by MrOwl team members. So Becky and Arvin have like team members that their job is to, create the branches, find these links, and when users add subtopics, they get checked before adding it to the community tree. Like you can add a subtopic and you can reorder things, but that actually is only visible to you. But then those kind of go in as suggestions, and they may be added to the actual community tree if they're a good fit. But I love the idea that this massive tree of, I think it was like a tree of knowledge, that everything in there is checked, and you'll notice there's no ads on this website. So if you use it with students, they might stumble across something that maybe is more of a distraction. I won't call it totally inappropriate, but some things are, movie stars and, TV shows and stuff. If you let them just have, free reign on it and you don't have them search in a certain area, but still there's nothing really inappropriate that they were going to stumble across to if they're on MrOwl. As far as the user piece, each user creates a profile page. You can create and organize your own branches. You should be aware that user branches are not moderated. Now, there are tools that go through the site periodically and check it for, things that are really inappropriate, but the links in there are not checked in the same way as the links in the tree. And then users can interact using social media tools like following and messaging people and grabbing and hearting and sharing branches and collaborating. And I'm going to explain to you how all of that works. So when you set up your profile page, which I'll explain to you later how to do that, you're going to have a photo. Some people don't want like the, shot like mine. Some people actually have a picture of them like from the back, like looking away. They don't want their face on there. Some people just have a picture of something they're interested in, whatever you're comfortable with, a little bio. It'll have, if you choose to have links to like your Facebook page and Pinterest and so on, you can set that up as well. And then on MrOwl, you can follow other users and they can follow you. And all of that information is right there on your profile page. When you're navigating MrOwl, you should be aware that when you log on, you just go to MrOwl.com, you're going to land on this home page, which is not your profile page, and it has branches at the top that are called the top branches, and then under that there are my branches, my grabbed branches, my collaborative branches, and so on. As educators, when you log on and you see the top branches, you might say, whoa, I don't really want, it's not like really bad, but I don't really want my kids logging on and seeing that, like movie stars and things. But this is one of the things that's in the works and should be ready really soon, that when students or children sign up, not through Facebook, because Facebook they're not supposed to, and Google they're supposed to be 13, but if they're under 13 and they sign up by email, that the content is going to be customized, so they're not going to see just any old user branch. It's going to be age appropriate things. So I just wanted you to know that's the kinds of things that they've been listening and trying to make these changes, and they're going to listen to your ideas too. But if you want to go to your profile page, you click on the picture of yourself or the image up in the corner, and that will take you to your profile page. So no matter where you are on the site, and if you want to access the branches and the creation tools, like you want to create a branch or look at the top branches or whatever, you're going to click the shortcut icons in the gray bar. On the mobile app, it's a little bit different, but you've got, if you want to get to your profile page, click that green user icon up at the top. If you want to look at the, see the shortcut icons, click the green plus sign to access them, and it kind of pops up so that all the things that were in the gray bar on the website, just pop up as clickable links on the mobile app. So let me just get into a little bit about, I feel like branches are sort of the heart of the whole thing, because there's two types of branches. There's branches on the community tree and there's user branches, but branches are like the main way that content is organized. And branches are kind of the top level, and then when you click a branch, you'll see things inside that look like branches, but they're actually referred to as subtopics. And then you could just keep creating subtopics within subtopics and so on. And that is something different if you're thinking, well, this is kind of like Pinterest. Pinterest doesn't have a way where you can organize your boards into one collection of boards that you label in a certain way. So this is kind of allowing you to organize more so than many other sites. And if you think of branches as being kind of like mini customized search engines, it's a good way to think of them, especially if they're branches that you've created on your own, if you created them for your students. I also love that branches can be made public or private. So if you have like a family event and you're all planning something, you make a private branch, and you can add people as collaborators to your branch, and they can share, recipes and whatever they want to share, plans for your event. So the main topics are organized in what, as said, were branches. But when you click on a branch, like one of my branches is math teaching resources. Well, when you click on that, then I've broken it down into like Common Core, problem solving, math books, whole numbers with place value, geometry, and so on. There's more than that. And one thing I really like about MrOwl, if you guys have followed me for a while, and I bet you there's a bunch of you that have followed me for a long time, my website has been online for 20 years. So that's a really long time. But you know that I have a website, I have a blog, I have a TPT store, I have a Pinterest account. But like with MrOwl, I can pull all of those resources together by topic in one place so that you can find them. Branches and subtopics may include these two important things, like links to web pages and online resources and uploaded photos and documents all together in one place. So how would you browse for resources on the site? I think there's a lot of ways you could do it, but I'm just going to give you two easy options. Go right to the community tree and browse there, or click on the top branches, which are they have user branches and the community tree branches mixed in together. But that's where you could click on a branch and then look and see what's inside it. Like if it's something like crockpot recipes, you click on it, but then it might be crockpot desserts, crockpot breakfast or whatever, and you click on that and you can kind of dig deeper and deeper. So that's kind of browsing as opposed to searching. If you want to search for something, it's a little bit different. You type up in the search bar at the top. Now, the total eclipse is really on my mind right now. I don't know how many of you guys are lucky enough to live right in the path of the total eclipse or close enough that you're going to try to drive and actually see it. But I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We're just a couple of hours away. And right now my daughters and I are planning to drive to South Carolina and get in the crazy nonsense that's going to be happening and see that total eclipse if we can. So I was searching for eclipse, and when you type in the word, you get to search either in all branches, in the community tree, or in users if there happened to be somebody whose username was eclipse. And on the website, on the mobile app, if you click down in the lower corner, the little magnifying glass search tool, then it's going to look like a blank screen at first, but when you type something like eclipse, it brings you those options. Do you want to search in all branches, users, or just in the tree? And this is something I actually just learned today. This is funny because, Becky and Arvin and I got together a few hours ago to kind of do a run through on the webinar and just make sure everything was right. And they said, one thing you didn't mention was how when you're in the community tree and you search, you actually can search within a certain branch. And I was like, I didn't know that. I am still learning things about MrOwl. So let me tell you why this would be valuable. Let's say you wanted to research cardinals, but you were looking for the birds. Well, if you typed cardinals in from somewhere else on MrOwl, you're going to get sports teams and other things. But if you go to the community tree and you click on animals, so you're in the animals category and you type cardinals, you see where it comes up and says you can either search in all branches, the community tree, or in the animals branch, or in users. So if you click it there, all you're going to come up with is birds. And I didn't show a screen capture of that, but I did it, and that's exactly what happens. So that's pretty cool. I thought that's a really nice way to keep things very focused. I also wanted to tell you that they've done an awesome job with their frequently asked questions and help pages, because as I move through the webinar, I'm going very quickly, and because I feel like a lot of it's somewhat intuitive. Some things are not as intuitive because these are very specialized features, so I'm going to spend time on those. But I just wanted you to know, if you ever need help with something on MrOwl, you just click on the little question mark at the top, and you'll see those boxes that I was showing you a second ago here. So it's, you click on one of those basically branches. And so let's say I click on interacting with branches, and I want to click, how do I grab someone else's branch? So click that, and then it just opens to the information, and it's there in text form. There's screen captures, but they also have a little video here. It shows there's a little 41-second video that tells you exactly how to grab a branch. So it opens like this, you play the video. So I wanted you to know that that's there for you, because if you get frustrated about how quickly I'm going, a lot of this you can find in their help materials. I also wanted you to know that they really want feedback from you. And if you have a question, like you cannot figure out how to do something, just click the contact us little link down there. It's on the bottom corner of every single page, and a box will pop up that looks like this, and it's divided into 3 categories. You can just make a comment, or you could ask a question, or you could report a bug. And it's already pre-populated with your username, so then you can fill out the rest of it and contact them, and that will, Becky and Arvin will see that. So just wanted you to know that's there for you too. So that's like a top level overview of how this works. One thing I completely forgot to tell you, I don't know if Peggy has got any questions about this, but I don't have any handouts in terms of note-taking pages for this webinar. I decided this is a free webinar that I'm doing kind of as a service to Becky and Arvin and for Mr. Owl, and I really don't want you to have to sit there and take notes, so I'm going to make these slides available after the webinar. I'd hoped to do it before the webinar, but I'm just going to take this whole slide deck and I'm going to convert it to a PDF, and then you can go through it as you'd like, so you do not have to sit here and write down everything. I'm just going to make the whole slide deck available to you, so I meant to tell you that. When it comes to setting up your profile page, choose a username, as I said, that it's going to be public. So I had originally picked L.A. Candler, but then when I met with Becky and Arvin, they were like, you probably want to do Laura Candler, because then people who are searching for you can find it, because there's some places on the site where you don't even see the person's real name, you just see kind of their handle. So they kind of helped me make that change, and I'm sure that if you've set yours up with a username already and you realize, I really should have just used my name, I bet you if you just use that contact us form and say, could you help me change my username, I'm sure they could help you in some way take care of that. I don't know whether you'd have to set up a new profile or not, but I just want to let you know it's probably best to use your name with like a dot or a dash or something in between. Upload a profile image, write a short bio, and then if you want to change any of the social media links or notification options, click settings. And I will say there are going to be a lot of notifications, like every time somebody grabs one of your branches, every time somebody, there's like a lot of notifications you will start to receive. And if you have a lot of people starting to follow you and everything, you may decide you just want to turn that off in your settings. The next thing I suggest that you do is going to help you down the road with when you create branches. They have a wonderful Chrome extension that's a little Mr. Owl picture. And if you go to their help page, and I'm trying to think how I got to this, actually, to tell you the truth. Oh, I just told you. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. You click on settings and you go down to the bottom there, Mr. Owl Chrome extension. See, they made it easy. You didn't have to search for it. This comes up and then it tells you, click here, get the Mr. Owl Chrome extension, and it explains exactly how to install it on Chrome. And I'll show you how you're going to use it, but it's really helpful to have that Chrome extension. So just wanted you to know about it. Now you're ready to create your first branch. So remember, a branch is a collection of information, and actually I call it information and resources because it's not just website links that you're interested in. You can customize it by adding website links, photos, documents, and more. So you start off by naming your branch. Excuse me, you click Create Branch at the top, you name your branch, give it a description. You want to decide if it's going to be public or private. I like how everything is defaulted to private, but it can be a little confusing if you thought you created a branch and somebody can't see it. It's probably because you forgot to change it to public. And then you probably want to upload an image to go with that branch, just some kind of picture. If not, it's just going to have a picture of Mr. Owl, and then you click to create the new branch. So here's a branch I just created a few days ago called Mr. Owl Resources for Teachers. It's where I'm keeping all the different kinds of things I've talked about in this webinar. So if you follow me on MrOwl, and you'll just see this as one of my top branches. So let's talk about how to upload a document. You just click Add a Link or Document, and then you're going to click the tab that says Add Document, because the other one says Add Link. Then you're going to give it a file name and a description. You're going to choose your file, and it'll just go out on your hard drive or your Dropbox or whatever, find it, and then click Submit, and it will upload that for you. So how you add a photo or an image. The main way to add a photo or an image to the regular default template on MrOwl is it's going to go over in the sidebar, and you follow the same process to add the photo. So I'm not going to go through that. I mean, I think it's pretty intuitive. You just click it, you give it a description, you upload it, and so on, and they just stay right there in the sidebar. There is a template, a photo template that I'll tell you about when I get into the class website explanation, because you can actually make a class website from your MrOwl account and have like a photo gallery. Now, there's 3 easy ways to add a link, and I'm going to go from the easiest to the most challenging. So there's a really cool feature they have called the nest. So the easiest thing is to use the nest tool. I'll tell you about that in a minute. The next one is to use, and the nest tool is for stuff that's already on MrOwl, but you just want to save it in one of your branches. And the next one is to use your Chrome extension. And then the last one is to manually add a link. So I'm going to go through those. So here's how the MrOwl Nest tool works. There's a little icon, this little blue hexagon with the little orange block in the middle. It looks like a little stylized nest, I guess. That wherever you see that, that means you have access to your nest. So what you do is you find content on MrOwl. This is only something that can be used on MrOwl. So you look for content, you can use the search or the browse tools, and then when you find a link in the branch that you want to save, you click the 3 dots next to the link, and it opens up this menu, and then you click that little nest icon, and when you do that, it adds it to your nest. And what happens is a little gray panel slides out, which is your nest, and it adds that link in the description and everything right there. And then you can go to other branches and add more. You can just keep adding things to your nest. It's like, I'm going to say it's like adding eggs to your nest. So you're just going all over MrOwl, finding things on MrOwl that are related to the topic that you are curating, that you're creating your branch for. So after you've added a bunch of things to your nest, you navigate to one of your branches and you click on the nest icon, because the panel will collapse when you go to a different branch, and it opens up that panel. And then there's a little arrow up at the top that you click next to each item in your nest. And as you click each arrow, it just like copies it right over, just moves it right over to your branch. So I was doing this branch on animals. So I found some animal things in the animal MrOwl community tree. And you see all those, the 3 links that I added got added to that branch that I'm working on for animals. So it's done, the links are copied, and so on. So that's the easiest way. Okay, well, what if I want to find something and I couldn't find it on MrOwl? Well, the next topic I'm going to show you, honestly, I never looked on MrOwl because they probably have something on it, but I don't know if any of you saw my Facebook page the other day, not my teacher one, but my personal one, but I got to see a nest of baby loggerhead turtles hatch out. There was over 100 of them. This happened like at sunset. This is something that usually happens like at midnight. And these little baby loggerhead turtles just crawled out of their nest and then just made this dash for the ocean. And I videotaped the whole thing. It was so exciting. I don't know. I was just so lucky. You just don't get to see that. So I've gotten a little bit interested in loggerhead turtles. So let's say I want to get some websites together for loggerhead turtles. So you click on the branch that you're updating, but then you need to open another tab to do the next thing. You want to open another tab in your browser to search for whatever it is that you want. So I found this website, information about sea turtles, loggerhead from the Sea Turtle Conservancy. So when you find a website you like, you click on that MrOwl extension, and a little box pops up, and it will auto-populate the form fields usually auto-populate with some words, like the title and a description, and the URL. The URL I've seen is always right. The title and the descriptions, a lot of times they're not. You just need to go in there and make them a little cleaner and easier to read. It's not MrOwl website fault. It's where it's picking up the coding on the site that you go to, and it just brings in whatever the website coder put as the description, and sometimes it's not what you want. So you edit that, and then you just click add to topic, which means it goes right onto your branch. Or if you just want to put it in your nest for some reason, because maybe you're not in the right branch at the time, you can just put it into your nest. And I'm assuming that if you're logged into MrOwl and you're doing some things and you don't actually have that branch open, you just put it in your nest, and then you can add it to your topic later. The last thing that, I mean, it's not real hard, but it takes a little more, being a little more tech savvy is manually adding a website link. So if you find a link you want to add and you don't have the MrOwl Chrome app, you just click the URL in the browser bar to highlight it, kind of turns it blue. Then you right click and you select copy, or you can use your shortcuts like Control-C or Command-C to copy that URL. And then you click the branch that you're working on, that you're updating, and you click add a link or document. And then you just click right down in the URL field and you paste it. You just right click and paste it, or use Control-V or Command-V, I guess would probably be on a Mac, and you just paste it down. You click next, and then sorry, a little out of sync there on my animations. But anyways, you click next, and you can put in your title and your description. It won't auto-populate. I don't think it auto-populates. I don't think that it did for me. Maybe it did. I can't remember actually. I'm reading my own information. I guess it does auto-populate, excuse me. I told you there's a lot on this website. So I guess based on the URL that you put in, it does auto-populate. But once again, you need to check it and edit it. And then you just add it to your branch. And one reason I went into so much detail, I know that was, I don't know, some of you may have felt like that was overkill on how you add links, but this is so important because this is how you create branches where you could organize your professional resources. So you could create branches for units, for subject areas, for teaching methods, management ideas. Like, there's so many things you could do, but I just wanted you to be aware of all of the tools. It's not hard to do it all, but hopefully, the 5 minutes I spent on how to add links to your branch will help you, maybe save you 20 minutes of trying to figure some things out on your own. The next thing that I think is so unique about MrOwl, and I really like, is the kind of the social media and the connection and the community piece. I'm sure you're familiar with the term crowdsourcing, and that's when you're using the community to gather resources and things. And I thought about how I actually looked up the word crowdsourcing. That word did not get coined until 2005, but Arvin and Becky came up with this idea for MrOwl in 1999. So they were true innovators, because this was a crowdsourcing concept here. So I really love that about MrOwl. So the kind of the easiest social media piece is how to share your profile. So you just go to your profile page. Remember, you click that link in the upper corner and then click share, and then you'll see the little pop-ups for Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. And if you are already logged in, say, to Facebook, then it'll be really easy to share. If you're not logged in to like Twitter or whatever, you would have to log in order to do that sharing. You can also you can connect with others. So you can find other users on MrOwl that have similar interests. And you can easily do that by clicking on somebody's profile image and then click on the link that says followers and following, and kind of find new people. And then you can follow them too. And I just put a little note because I wanted to remember to tell you, when I'm done with the webinar, I want you to go find me on MrOwl. I want you to follow me, because there are these new tools that are coming out for teachers, like class website templates. And the way you get access is to follow me, because when you follow me, they're watching for that, they're monitoring for that, and then they're giving my followers access to these new features, because some of them are a little bit confusing and they're just not revealing them to the public. And if you follow me and those features are not available within, I don't know, 24 hours, maybe Becky and Arvin can answer this, just click the contact us link at the bottom and say, I followed Laura and I would really like to have access to those, the class website templates and so on. You can message people, but really the good thing is you can only message somebody if they're following you, which means you're not going to get a bunch of random messages from people that you don't know. You would have to follow somebody in order for them to be able to message you. So one of the easiest ways you can message somebody is to go to their profile page and then click, I called it the chat icon, but it's, message icon right there next to their name. So Sheldon Jordan, I'm following him and he's following me. He's a member of a lot of my Facebook groups and the Caring Classrooms community. And so there's a message icon there and I can click that and I can send him a private message. If I want to message a whole group, then I can do that from the message icon up in the corner. You click that. And you actually, when you do that, you click the group message icon. You can actually message individual followers from this part of the website too, but I'm just kind of showing you with the group situation. So you just click the group message icon. You put a group name in, and you could use this for setting up like messaging to your parents of your students. They would have to be users on the site, but you can do, this private messaging and so on. But you'll be able to edit the group and add an image later and add more people, but at this point, you're just setting up the group name. Then you select participants from your list of followers, and remember, like if somebody's name does not appear, that means they're not following you. You would have to contact them outside of MrOwl and get them to follow you first. Click create, enter a message, send it to all your group members, replies go to all group members, and then you can actually come back to this group and message them again and interact. The only thing I want to caution you about, there's a place on there where it will say exit group. It's like in red, like with a question mark. And I clicked that after setting up a group. I thought I was just going back to my homepage. And what it did was it took me out of the conversation. That was it. I was done. I had to just set it up all over again. So if it says exit group, it means you are actually leaving the conversation and you're not going to be able to get back in, even if you're the one that set it up. So just be careful. How to interact with branches. When you find a user's branch you like, you can heart it, which just shows that you like it. You're not keeping it. You're not keeping a copy or whatever. You're just saying, yeah, I like that. You can grab it, which means that it's going to be added to your grabbed branches, but you actually cannot, edit it. It's that person's branch. You will see it, and when they update it, you will see the updates, but you're not able to edit it. Now, they are going to be working on a feature. Peggy George brought this up, that she would love to be able to copy the branch if the person allowed copying. That would be enabled, and then you could copy it to your account and you could edit it, but then you wouldn't see any updates that they made on it. But you can also comment on it, you can share it, and so on. They just added a new feature called collaborative branches. This is brand new. A collaborative branch is one that has more than one member. And so I set one up to test it out. I called it favorite read alouds. I added a few members from the Facebook group. Then I had to actually stop because there were some features of it that were a little bit confusing and hard to work with, but I have it figured out now. So if you're in the Facebook group and you want to join the collaborative read aloud branch, I can add you to it. Just so you understand, collaborators have different roles. If the branch is public, then if you add somebody as a member, they're automatically going to be an editor because they can already see it. So there would be no reason to add them unless you want them to actually be able to edit the branch. But if it's a private branch, like let's say it's a branch on your class website, it's private. You could invite students and parents to view it privately, but they can't edit it. And those options are all available to you. So I just wanted you to understand that. The little arrow there is just to show you can see the little lock code there, whether it's public or not public. And I just have a little tip for you. If you add people to your branches, you're really going to want to be able to collaborate, like message them, because sometimes things are a little confusing. So you may want to set up a group that has all of those members in it so you can contact them easily. But a brand new feature that's coming probably soon, like next week, is there's going to be a way that if you have a collaborative branch, you can just click one button and automatically message all of the members. So I just want to toss this out to you because I'm not sure when that's coming. One reason I wanted to share these collaborative features with you, especially collaborative branches and the messaging, is you could collaborate with your team on site at school, like your grade level or a subject area team, or a co-teacher, or you and a special ed teacher if you're, a classroom teacher. You could create collaborative branches for topics that you both teach, organize your links, upload your resources, lesson plans, and you can use group messaging tools to communicate with the people who are members of that. So just some ideas there for you. So everything I've shared so far has just been about like professionally. So this last part of the webinar is just some ideas that I had about how to use MrOwl in the classroom. And I really welcome your contributions to this. So my more focused question is, how can teachers use MrOwl in the classroom? So as I'm sharing some of these things, feel free, if you are inspired with an idea, to just put it in the chat. So first thing I want to suggest to you is, if you want to use MrOwl with your students, I would set up a totally separate profile. I tried it the other way, where I tried making a class website under my profile. It did not work because of the way the branches, it was very complicated because of the privacy and the fact that, parents were going to be seeing my Facebook stuff and whatever. So I talked with Becky and Arvin. I asked them if it was okay, because, some sites, they don't want you to do that. I said, no, this is good. So set up a separate class profile. Choose a name. My website for years when I was teaching was called Candler Kids. I actually had the URL candlerkids.com, which is not really active right now. I need to redirect it to here as an example, but I have Candler Kids as the username, and at Candler Kids as one word, Candler Kids is the name of the site, our profile, and then at Candler Kids is our username. And then you can upload a class photo. If you're doing this for your new group and you don't have permissions and everything, you could put a class photo from the previous year, and then some kind of description about, what grade level and something in that area. And just remember, your username will be really public, and you want to pick a name that your students can find easily if they're searching for it. So I want you to think of your class profile page as your whole class website. So then you can add branches with subtopics for the website components. Now, I just started working on this, so if you look for me, Candler Kids, you're going to look at it and you'll probably be disappointed, because you'll see I don't have much in these branches. I've just been really busy putting together the webinars, very time consuming, creating screen captures and trying to explain everything clearly. So I'm going to be going back and adding more information, but I just kind of wanted to get you a feel for what you could do, for how you could create a free class website, and sort of the versatility, the flexibility of what you can do with this site. Like, you could have one branch could be your class handbook. You could upload your digital class handbook, but also forms, resources, things that the parents need to know, like field trip forms and all kinds of things. You could do team project branches. You could do a branch for featured student work, for homework assignments. You can do a photo gallery, class news, and so on. I just listed some ideas that I had for you, and I'm going to share, there's just not time in the webinar tonight, so I'm going to go really quickly through this, but I'm planning to do either a Facebook Live or like a screencast video type thing to dig into this a little bit more, because there's a website template that you can use that's kind of fun, that you can apply to an individual branch that looks like a class website. So you might want to put that on your class news branch. There's also a photo gallery template where it's nothing but photos, so it's not all those links. But just so you know, when you switch from one template to the other, it's going to wipe out everything that you already had in that branch, but if you switch back, it'll come back. I just want to let you know to be careful with that. Like I said, homework assignments, you could have featured student work, team project branches, class handbook. You could have a branch called learning links, and then in it, a subtopic folder for each subject area. And in the subtopics, you could have, links to websites or resources or whatever. And then another idea I had that would be kind of cool, but I don't think you could do this inside a branch, but if you had students that are on MrOwl and they created their own branches, you could grab their branches and they would show up in the grabbed branches section of your class website. So wouldn't it be fun to have kids make a branch like All About Me, where they're putting links to things that they like and pictures and, uploading maybe a story they wrote or a poem or, digital photos they took or something like that. And then you as the teacher could grab those branches and then they would appear in the, in the class website. So those are some ideas that I had, and I'm not reading the chat because I need to, keep this going. We're reaching the top of the hour here, but I hope if you think of other things, you will share them, and this is a topic that we can certainly revisit later. Some other ideas for branches that aren't really part of your class website necessarily, but students can create branches to organize documents and resources for a project. And then if it's a private branch, they could send the link to the teacher. A public branch, they could send the link to the teacher to view. If it's a private branch, they could add the teacher as a collaborator on their branch to view what they've done. So let's say they're researching about loggerhead turtles. In that branch that they create, they could save the links that they're going to do their research from, and then they could upload their paper. They could upload maybe they were lucky enough to see some turtles or visit an aquarium or whatever. They could upload photos and so on. So students can create branches. Teachers could create team branches for projects. So if you have, let's say your class is going to do an American history project, and each team is going to research a certain time period in American history, you could create branches for each time period and add the students to them as collaborators. And then same thing, they would add their links that they're researching, their sources, upload things, and in the collaborative branches, it shows who added the links, who added the resources. So guess what? If one kid is doing all the work, it's going to be pretty obvious because that's going to be the only kid that's adding anything to the branch. So it's pretty cool concept there. And then the teacher can create topic branches for students to search when conducting researches. If you remember, branches are like little mini customized search engines. So for this American history project you're doing, you could create a branch called American History, and you could just fill it up with websites and resources that you want the kids to check out. So, I just think there's a lot of possibilities. And remember, branches can be made public or private. And they're adding more privacy features and things all the time. So I think it's a really neat concept. Just MrOwl is very unique. It combines some of the best of many different tools and brings them all together in one tool. So we are going to be wrapping up the session. And the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you, what do you see as the benefits of MrOwl? Which features make it attractive for educators? Most of you probably haven't even gotten on it and explored it yet, but just based on what I shared, Arvin and Becky would love to hear, and I would love to see, what are some of the things that really jump out at you and appeal to you and that you think you're going to be able to make use of. So I'm just, as I'm waiting for you guys to maybe respond with some of your ideas about benefits and things, I'm going to sort of scroll through. I don't know if you shared. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to share. Arvin and Becky's son did a great branch on narwhals, and I meant to put that in here as an example, and it just didn't happen. But I can add that to their resources page. So let me see what some of your ideas are. Place for everything, the fact that it's ad free, that I think that's really important, because any place that has ads, you just never know what's going to, pop up there. The collaborative aspects, everything collected in one area rather than like a website here, a newsletter here, or whatever. Subtopics, which like Pinterest doesn't have that ability to create subtopics. I think it would help teaching kids how to create branches. Don't you think it would help them organize their thinking? Like, just think about the lesson you could do with children on, okay, you're going to create a branch on this, but I want you to think of 3 subtopics that are going to go in this branch. And then what, and like, when they're putting them together and you look at it and you realize what they put was maybe not a subtopic, maybe that should have been a main topic, and just like helping them to organize their thinking. I just think there's like a lot of, tools here that are unique that will be great for educators. So I brainstormed just some of my own ideas. You've probably come up with all of these, but the fact that it's free and it's free of ads is amazing. And, I talked with Becky and Arvin about this quite a bit at the beginning, because I'm going to tell you I'm a little skeptical about, things being free, and I really didn't want to invest a lot of my time and energy in sharing how to use it, only to have them say, 6 months from now that the free version has hardly anything, but now you have to pay for all these features. They have assured me that that is not going to happen. And as they said in the beginning, they had their websites and things, and then they sold them a few years ago, and now they're getting to kind of live out their dream of what they feel like their life's work and the things that they've really wanted to do for a long time. And we are all getting to benefit from their vision and their dreams. So, I think that's pretty awesome. So branches can be public or private. I think that's really important. And a new feature is that they're looking at is they're going to make you able to have your whole profile be private. So if children sign up, their parents can make their profile private. And, you would have to have permission to view that. So I think that could be really awesome for schools. Easy to create a class website, very flexible. You just add branches and you keep, modifying it. You can keep parents informed via your website and like the group messaging features. Upload documents and save website links in the same branch. I think that's really awesome. And then you can browse and search branches really easily. And it's really easy to share resources with others, just using, sharing on social media and so on. So new features that are in the works. They've told me that they're working on children under age 13 will only see age appropriate content on the home page and in the top branches section. And they are looking at some other things, which will be like in the teacher settings, where let's say you have a class website. Well, they don't want you to kind of make up a birth date that's under age 13, because that would limit you, but they're going to give you some options in the settings where you can control that too, so that some of those, highly engaging top branches that are really more, it's not stuff that you want children to be surfing through, those won't even be seen by them. As I mentioned earlier, the ability to copy a branch and edit it, not just grab and save it, but this would only be if the branch creator set it up to give permission to copy the branch. And they'll be able to message all members of a collaborative branch at once. And as I said, they're working on a feature that you could make your entire profile private. I mean, most adults probably wouldn't do that, but that's something that you would may want to consider for your students. And I did ask Becky and Arvin before adding this slide, because they may get tons of feedback on this. They really wanted me to put it in here. What features would you like to see added to make MrOwl even better for educators? And the deal is, if you're on the live webinar now and you have an idea, just share it in the chat. But if you think of something later, or you're watching, watching the replay, then you need you can use that contact us link that's on the MrOwl pages down in the bottom corner and just say, hey, I thought of this feature. I think it would be really cool. It'd be really helpful, and get that feedback from them. I did want to remind you again that if this is really intriguing to you, you may, and if you like Facebook groups, you may want to join the MrOwl Facebook group. You will have to apply. My Facebook groups are private. I do not just open them to everybody because those get filled with spam. So you have to just fill out a little Google Doc form. I mean, I'm not picky. You just have to give me your name, email address, and I don't even remember if I asked what grade you taught or whatever. And I will add you to my email list, but by you signing up for this webinar, you'll end up on an email list to get resources dealing with MrOwl anyway. So we are there to support new users, which I'm a new user, so I have questions, explore and test new features, and if you discover some cool stuff, it works, or when you get your websites up, Becky and I actually talked about having a website contest later, where after teachers have had a time to set up their websites, that they would share them with us, and the contest would be basically kind of a random thing. We wouldn't be trying to look at it and say who has the best website, but it would be kind of a way of sharing with other educators, like we would maybe grab your branches or just do some things. So we got some ideas for the Facebook group. And I did want to let you know, if you like this webinar, I have quite a few professional development webinars. They're a little different from this because they do come with PD certificates and some other things. But if you enjoyed this webinar, you probably would enjoy the other ones too. And if you go to lauracandlerwebinars.com, it actually takes you to a place in my TPT store where you can see those professional development webinars. This is actually our final slide right here. This is the MrOwl resources page for teachers, and I wanted Becky and Arvin to come back on and answer any questions that we might have. So if you want to turn your microphone and see if anybody has any questions, and have you seen things going on, or whatever you want to say here as we're wrapping things up.
First thing we want to say, Laura, is thank you so much for doing this. You know, and I want everyone to know that Laura has really contributed into making MrOwl a much better resource for educators, but we aren't done. And we really would love and welcome any feedback. There were a bunch of things that we had not thought about that educators might like or need tweaked, and Laura has certainly given us some great advice and great counsel as far as that goes to make that happen. But truly, we welcome all feedback and would really like to make it a great resource for educators.
And if you go to the bottom of any web page, there's a contact us link. And we would love, that's where you can suggest to us anything you'd like. We'd love to hear your suggestion. Anytime you think of it, please do contact us, because we're trying to make it better for all educators.
Absolutely.